So Will, Humble Audio, Superbooth 2018.
Yes, we are.
First time in Berlin?
Not my first, but my first Superbooth exhibiting here, yes, yes.
So we have, I think, the most broken out, feature-packed FM bank in the format, I guess?
Yeah, I believe we do.
And other hardware as well, not just Euro rack.
Well, what I did here is I took some inspiration from a soft synth called FM8, which has, instead of a sort of algorithms concept, which is very common in FM synthesizers, you have just a modulation matrix. So you just send modulation from one oscillator to another, and that was the point at which I sort of went aha with FM. I think it's just kind of a more intuitive approach to thinking about it and understanding the technique. So
it's more basic and more complex at the same time. It's just a different way to work with FM.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely, it gives you, it lends it to the beginner, just trying to add a little modulation to see what happens and gain an intuition for the technique. But then it adds a lot of power, I think, as well. So it's very exciting. So I've implemented everything in Scratch in an ARM software implementation, so it doesn't have some of the limitations of the Yamaha old stock chips that are still, being used.
Nice to update that back end as well.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of control there, and in addition to the modulation matrix, I've got a few other features that I think wouldn't be possible with integrated circuits. So I'm excited to bring that to you. So I can show you some of those if you like.
Yeah, let's take a look and listen. Yeah.
Okay, great. So just like a quick overview for starters, master tuning here, some other master controls over here, volt per octave, some low frequency FM for vibratos and pitch envelopes, and a reset, phase resetting. Then you have controls for each of the 4 oscillators here. I'll come back to these lock switches a bit later, but these all sort of work, the ratio and detune work relative to the master tune, so ratio is sort of an integer multiplier relative to the master. At 12 o'clock, you've got just a multiplier 1. To the right, you've got multipliers up to 13, and to the left, you've got dividers down to a division of 13. So you can also do some interesting, like subharmonic type FM as well. Detune again at 12 o'clock. That'll keep you locked in at that tight phase locking you want for harmonic FM results. But then you get it up to an octave of detune for more sort of enharmonic FM as well. Continuously variable wave shape, sine, triangle, square, saw. These also have, I think, a pretty, even though they're digital wavetable implementation, they have a pretty authentic analog character to them. So if you, for instance, want to do 4 separate patches that are not FM based or subtractive rather, you can just unlock them, any individual oscillator, and then your ratio and detune become a coarse and fine tuning. The ratio CVs then will become a 1 volt per octave control for that oscillator, and then that goes well with the 4 independent outputs down here. So that's a really nice kind of non-FM added value feature there. And then over here is where we sort of get into the meat of the device. This is the modulation matrix. So you've got your sort of oscillator controls here, and that just continues into this section. So this is 1 to 1. I'm sending modulation from oscillator 1 to itself, 1 to 3, 2 to 2, 3 to 2 here, and so on. So you can sort of design your algorithm here, if you will. We've also got an audio rate FM input, distinct from our low frequency FM input. As I said, this is more of like a vibrato or pitch envelope type of use case. This is great for sending in audio rate signals that you want to use to actually modify the frequency at audio rates. I've got it set up here as a feedback patch, which I think is a great use case for this. So we're taking operator 4's output, running it through a 3 sisters filter down here, and then back in through this input. So I've got and then I've got individual sends for the external audio rate input as well. So now I've got a modulator that's being manipulated by other modules in my rack, and that gives me a lot of interesting control that I think is...
I think any feedback path is ultimately more interesting with VCAs, filters, effects in the past.
Absolutely, yeah, this can get much more complicated than I've got here. And I'm in fact really excited to see how people put it to use. I haven't, obviously thought of all the great things you could do something like that. So I'm looking forward to see what people do with it. We've also got there's sort of a virtual VCA per oscillator in here, and there's a gain control via CV for each of those. The levels indicated by the green LEDs here. And a normal's high, so it stays open. But this is how you sort of get moving timbres if you put an envelope like we're doing into operator 2 here. You can see that's sort of being indicated there. That affects both the volume of operator 2 on its output, but also sort of gives you that ability to do moving timbres. Similar.
That's how you're modulating your FM indexes, the depth of modulation as well.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. And then in general, even though this is a digital module, I really wanted to maintain a really analog feel to the interaction. So every function is represented here by a knob or a CV or a switch. There's no sort of menus or hidden state, which I think is something that a lot of digital modules do in the space, and that's fine. But I really enjoy the analog feel of this.
And I mean, it's about sound. I really don't care what's going on under the hood of any module. If it feels right and sounds right, then that's key. And this could be anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's sort of the overview of the main module here. We've also got an expander I'll get into. The main module, quad operator, 30 HP will retail for approximately 600 US. You can do the conversion to euro to understand what that'll be, probably about 500 euro. And then we've got an expander module here called the Algo. We've decided to do this as a separate module for the reason of maintaining an analog feel in the main module. But what the Algo has is 3 preset slots where you can sort of set your algorithm, if you will, with the matrix, and then just sort of press and hold, and it'll save it into a slot for you. And you've got 3 slots for that, as well as a live slot. So if you want to go back to the true state of the knobs at any point, you just go for that.
So when you move to a new algorithm, is it like a pickup on the knobs when you do then start turning them? Or does it completely just move to that preset state?
The current implementation is it will jump there, so it will have sort of discrete moment.
Can it then be edited once you're in it, or is that a kind of locked preset state?
Once it's in, that's an interesting point. As implemented now, we're not allowing you to edit it, but I think there are some ways you could figure out how to do that if you're just twisting one to sort of...
I almost like that you can't edit it, because there's the live version, and it's kind of nice to just say, do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's a safety net for performance, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. It also just makes it crystal clear when you want to go back and know that the knobs, the matrix is the true state of things. You can
exactly.
Another sort of interesting feature of this is I can actually pick two of these slots. So I'll do sort of a left and a right, if you will, and then I can crossfade between them with the knob here or the CV there. So you can actually sort of do some morphing with this as well. So that's I think a pretty compelling feature there. But if I just want to do one preset and know that it's the one I'm using, I just double tap. Or if I want to go back to live and know I'm always live, I double tap live and I'm back to it. So that's the Algo. The Algo will go for about 75 or 100 US. 4 HP main quad operator module, 30 HP, 600 US.
Well, let's finish on a few more sounds. I guess let's have a play around on the module.
Sounds good. Turn up the speakers out here. So this is a little chaotic right now. We'll start with something more. We'll turn all the modulation off just to kind of give you that one's on there too. There we go. So we're just got a sine tone here. I think one good thing we can quickly do is just show you the variable wave shapes. That should be a triangle about right there, and then into a square over here, and a saw all the way on this side. So that's sort of the variable shapes for classic FM sounds. You generally want these all the way left for sine waves. So then I can just add some modulation from operator 2 into modulator 1, operator 1, and I get some more sort of pluckiness in the beginning there you can hear. So this is sort of being controlled by this envelope. We can open that up a little bit so you get an idea of that sound. You can also do some cross modulation, sending modulation back from 2 to 1, and that'll actually make that a little noisier, so we get a sort of more percussive kind of pluckiness, that kind of thing. So you can get some kind of hi-hatty sounds that way and that sort of thing. Self-modulation is also possible. This just gets noisy really fast, but that's obviously got its uses. And then I can show you the sound quickly of the sort of feedback we were doing here. So we got operator 4 set as sort of a square wave. I got a ratio set that's probably about 3 or 4 times the normal height. We'll bring that down a little bit, but that's going out through the 3 sisters back into our audio rate FM input, which also, by the way, has this clipping indicator here, just to kind of give you some. I'm clipping right now because I got a lot of resonance on this. We'll now use this as our modulator, and send that to 1 here, and then I can use this sort of cutoff control of the 3 sisters to sort of morph the timbre as well. So that gives us a lot of interesting ideas for control there. And then so we've got sort of this more intense, and I can show you the crossfading with the Algo now. So we've got sort of this more intense kind of sound going on. Preset slot B I've got, I think, is set to empty modulation, so I can jump over there and back to just pure sine tones. And now if I hit live, B is left and live is right, and I can crossfade into live. And I, of course, can CV that as well and get some interesting timbres that way. So that's pretty interesting control. And then if I want to go back to live, I just double tap live and I'm back to what's here.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.